My name is Colin Berry. Have you ever visited a lumber yard like this one with your mom or your dad? They may have been looking for some 2x4s like these, or maybe some plywood or some fence posts. We all know they come from trees, but have you ever been out in the forest to see what is done to a tree to make it into a board? I thought it'd be neat for a kid like myself to find out. My dad owns a video production company, so I borrowed his video crew and asked Mr. McGuire, my dad's friend, to take me out for a day in the forest. Mr. McGuire wanted us to see a logging operation, so we headed off to a little town way up past Doryville called Strawberry Valley. Strawberry Valley is the home of the Soper Wheeler Lumber Company. We were introduced to Mr. Paul Violet. Mr. Violet is a forester for the Soper Wheeler Company, and he told us that he had some loggers out cutting trees in the forest, so off we went. The loggers start their day very early in the morning, so at noon when we arrived, they were just cutting their last tree for the day. It was a big one, about 4 feet in diameter. The loggers had started when we arrived, but I found out later that they had already decided where they wanted the tree to fall. The loggers also told me that if I were to place a pine cone on the ground anywhere near the tree, they could drop the tree right on the pine cone. That is how good these loggers are. First, the loggers make a wedge cut on the side of the tree in the direction they wanted it to fall when the final cut was made. Next, they knock the wedge out and then cut the rest of the tree in half. They pound a plastic wedge into the tree to get it to lean in the direction they want it to fall. The camera crew set the camera on a tripod and left it running, and we all got behind a tree for safety. Even the loggers ran and yelled, "Timber!" You may have heard the old question, does a tree make a sound if it falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it? Well, I can tell you that when this tree hit the ground, you could hear it. The ground shook, and it sounded like thunder. I have no doubt that if no one had been around, this tree would have made plenty of noise. Next, the loggers cut off the branches and cut the tree again so that it would fit on a log truck. As we were heading back up the road, a tractor known as a skidder came down the road. Mr. Violet explained that the skidder driver either picks up a log with the 2 hook-like things on the back, or he ties a steel cable around them and fastens them with a device called a choker. Then he hauls them off to a location where they can be loaded onto a log truck. That area is called the landing, and the landing was our next destination. Mr. Violet explained that the landing is a very dangerous place. The skidders are bringing in the logs, and these loggers are cutting off all the remaining branches. Besides that, the loader operator was moving logs around. The loader was by far my favorite. It really looked like a transformer. I expected it to change right before my eyes at any time. We were in luck, because a log truck pulled in while we were there. Mr. Violet explained that when a log truck pulls in, the crew at the landing work really hard to get it loaded and on the road as fast as they can. A log truck driver picks up between 2 and 4 loads of logs a day, so they want to get back on the road as fast as they can. Have any of you ever seen a log truck going down the road with its trailer on the top like this? Now you're going to see how they take it off. I'd like to see that again. The loader loaded 2 big logs first, and then a smaller log in the middle. These 3 logs made a good base for the logs that would be loaded on top. This truck had a built-in scale, and the driver showed me how they have to balance the logs evenly between the truck and the trailer. The total weight this truck can carry is 80,000 pounds. That's a lot. Whoa, what happened here? Looks like a big lawnmower came through here.
Well, sort of, Colleen. What we had come through here is a machine called a slash buster. That's what we're here to see. I don't know if you can hear that. It's coming this way. The reason we brought it through here was to knock down the competing brush and thin the trees at the same time. And we're reducing that competitive stress on these trees.
It was only 1 o'clock, but the day was over for the loggers. As we were walking back, I noticed there were still many trees that hadn't been cut down. I asked Mr. Violet why they didn't cut them all down.
This stand of trees that I've just walked out of has been felled in a thinning prescription. That means we've removed some of the trees with the intent of improving the growth on the trees that we've left behind. We've selected trees that have good, healthy, live crowns and taken those that were less healthy, the ones that were suppressed. This sugar pine will respond very well to this thinning. It has a good, healthy crown and will utilize the space that we've provided it by removing its less healthy neighbors.
One of the trees had been broken off by the wind near the top, and I could tell it was dead. The loggers had left it standing. Mr. Violet said it was a snag. I asked him why it was left standing.
It's been recognized that dead trees provide valuable habitat for wildlife species, particularly birds and some mammals. And in recent logging practices, foresters and forest managers have worked hard at protecting snags in their logging operations. This is a case where you've seen we felled trees and the snag hasn't been damaged. And after skidding, in the skidding process of these logs, we'll try to protect this snag, and it'll be retained for those wildlife values.
I asked Mr. Violet, what are some of the animals you want to protect? He told me one of them was called the spotted owl. So I asked Mr. Violet if he had ever seen one. He said he's not only seen one, but he has one he feeds. You guessed it, I wanted to see him feed the spotted owl, and maybe I would get to feed it too. The best way to find a spotted owl is to hoot for him. Mr. Violet had hooted for this owl before, and so it was not hard to find him. The spotted owl has a special pattern to his hoot. Listen again. We decided to see if the owl would eat a mouse while we were watching. I put a mouse on a branch near where the owl was sitting. We didn't have to wait long. Almost immediately, the owl flew down, grabbed the mouse, and returned to his perch to eat him. The owl wasn't frightened of us at all. He flew down and caught several mice while we watched, only a few feet away. Because owls eat at night and sleep during the day, it wasn't long before he decided it was nap time and flew off to his favorite tree for the rest of the day. We also heard a talk by a ranger from the U.S. Forest Service. He told us that the U.S. Forest Service is not only responsible for providing campgrounds and taking care of our national parks, but they are also responsible for managing the forests. They sell logs to the lumber companies. They provide pasture lands for cattle and protect the plants and animals that live in the forest. Mr. McGuire told me about another lumber company called Collins Pine. They are located in the town of Chester, and they have a sawmill. So the next day we drove up to Chester to the Collins Pine sawmill. There was a tour going on, so we joined in. These are the saw blades they use on the saw that cuts the logs into boards. They are stored in the blade sharpening room when they are not in use. I found out that they replace the blade every 6 hours, and each blade must be resharpened before they can be used again. Watch how fast this big saw cuts a board off of this big log. The board travels down a series of conveyor belts and rollers. A special camera divides the boards by size, and a computer tells the machinery called a J-bar where to store the boards. The boards are dried in a big storage shed and then delivered to the lumber yard. So when your dad needs a board, he doesn't have to go cut down a tree to get one. He can get it at the lumber yard. Next time you're at a lumber yard, look at the 2x4s. Find out what kind of wood they are, and then see if you can remember what the trees look like. I really learned a lot, and I know you did too. I hope you enjoyed our day in the forest.